third night at the convention as he accepted the vice presidential nomination.
John McCain proposes $200 million in new taxes for corporate America, $1 billion alone for the largest companies in the nation, but no relief for 100 million American families. That's not change. That's more of the same. Even today, as oil companies post the biggest profits in history, nearly $500 billion in the last 5 years, John wants to give them another $4 billion in tax breaks. That's not change. That's the same. And during the same time, John voted again and again against renewable energy, solar, wind, biofuels. That's not change. That's more of the same. Millions of Americans have seen their jobs go offshore. Yet John continues to support tax breaks for corporations that send them there. That's not change. That's more of the same. He voted 19 times against the minimum wage for people who are struggling just to make it to the next day. That's not change. That's more of the same. And when he says he'll continue to spend $10 billion a month, when the Iraqis have a surplus of nearly $80 billion, that's not change. That's more of the same. The choice in this election is clear. These times require more than a good soldier. They require a wise leader. A leader who can change the change that everybody knows we need. Barack Obama is going to deliver that change, because I want to tell you, Barack Obama will reform our tax code. He will cut taxes for 95% of the American people who draw a paycheck. That's the change we need. Barack Obama will transform the economy by making alternative energy a national priority, and in the process creating 5 million new jobs, and finally, freeing us from the grip of foreign oil. That's the change we need. Barack Obama knows that any country that out-teaches us today will out-compete us tomorrow. That's why he'll invest in the next generation of teachers and why he'll make college more affordable. That's the change we need.
While Senator Barack Obama made a surprise appearance at the Democratic National Convention in Denver last night, he was not the only presidential contender in town. Independent candidate Ralph Nader held a rally on Wednesday at the University of Denver, calling for an end to corporate control over the presidential debates. The longtime consumer advocate is making his 5th run for the White House. Nader's been a vocal critic of the policies of both John McCain and Barack Obama. When Obama selected Joe Biden to be his running mate, Nader dubbed Biden the MasterCard Senator because of his close ties to credit card industry. Biden was a key architect of the 2005 bankruptcy law, which made it harder for consumers to file for bankruptcy protection. Nader's also criticized Biden for helping to create the modern drug war by pushing the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act. Ralph Nader joins us here in Denver at Free Speech TV studios. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you, Amy. Actually, it's only 3 times run for president, as our website, votenader.org, points out.
Why are you doing it this year? A lot of people got angry at you last time, even the time before, though last time was key.
It's amazing how people can say that when in the same breath they will criticize the Democrat and Republican parties for being pro-war parties, pro-corporate parties, pro-military industrial complex parties. You know, why are we doing this? We're doing this to give voters a broader choice of agendas and to bring a younger generation in. At our rally last night, it was just magnificent to see young people in their early 20s get up on that stage and with very articulate performances show what's coming.
In fact, it was not only you as a presidential candidate there. Bob Barr was represented in a videotape, and Rosa Clemente, the Green vice presidential candidate, along with Cynthia McKinney, who is the presidential candidate. Rosa Clemente also spoke. What was the point of your rally last night?
The point was, and why we did what almost nobody ever does at the presidential candidacy level, bringing on competitors, so to speak, third-party and independent candidates, is to try to break the grip of this corporation called the Commission on Presidential Debates that the two major parties created in 1987 and can control. And they don't want anyone else on the stage. And that means that there's no way to get to tens of millions of people, unless you're a multi-billionaire like Perot. No way to get to tens of millions of people, no matter how many states we campaign in, no matter how many giant arenas we fill. It's less than 2% of what we would reach if we were on just one debate. Now, we're at 6, 7, 8% in the latest CNN polls, 7% in Colorado, with no mass mainstream television media.
This is the latest poll that came out this week.
Yes.
Explain again, and in what states?
In states like New Mexico, Colorado, Minnesota, we're coming in at 6, 7, 8%. NBC National News, ABC National News, CBS National News, total blackout since February 24th. And we're still doing that well. So we could turn it into a three-way race if we were really on those three presidential debates. Or if Google or Yahoo or veterans groups who all wanted to sponsor their own debates and deliver millions of viewers would get the cooperation of Obama and McCain. It's really interesting to see a difference here. McCain offered 10 town meetings to Obama. Obama said no. Google wants September 18th debate in New Orleans. McCain said okay. Obama said no. Veterans Group Coalition out of Fort Hood, Texas, they wanted a debate. McCain said okay. Obama says no. Isn't that amazing?
Talk about the candidates that, particularly that spoke last night. Yesterday was an interesting scene in Denver. Thousands of people were in the streets protesting, led by soldiers who'd returned from Iraq veterans against the war. We're going to play a clip of that protest later. It was mounting pressure through the day, the question of whether the riot police would actually tear gas them. They were all lined up. Their helmets were on. Their face coverings were on. But ultimately, Obama's people came out to talk with them, which is actually all they were asking for at that point. Biden accepted the vice presidential nomination. You spoke in a different part of Denver. Joseph Biden, what do you make of him as the vice presidential candidate for Barack Obama?
Well, he's going to be probably an effective attack dog against the Republicans. But we call him a Senator Plastic because he is the champion of the credit card industry. MBNA is in Delaware. It's a huge credit card company. It's given more than $200,000 to Joe Biden over his career. And he championed, almost shamelessly, the anti-consumer bankruptcy law that his fellow colleague, Senator Chris Dodd, who's the chair of the Senate Banking Committee, called, quote, the worst bill ever, unquote. And what it did, unlike corporate bankruptcy, it really squeezed people who had to go into bankruptcy because of medical bills, because they lost their job, as Professor Elizabeth Warren at Harvard Law School pointed out. Those are the two main reasons for bankruptcy. Squeezed them horribly. And this paved the way for predatory lenders to shift the burden on these hapless borrowers in the subprime home mortgage crisis, as they call it. He's got a lot to answer for. He tries to say he moderated the bill and it could have been worse, but he's very corporate. He comes from Delaware, which has always been in a race to the bottom to weaken corporate charter laws, which is why so many of the giant corporations are strangely chartered in Delaware over the years, like the big New York banks or General Motors. We want to use that to raise the whole issue of what Teddy Roosevelt and William Howard Taft were proposing 100 years ago, which is federal chartering of giant corporations. Take it away from the states like Delaware, rewrite the compact between the people and these artificial entities, and hopefully take away some of the constitutional rights to lobby and to engage in politics of these artificial entities, because they're not human beings, they don't vote, they shouldn't have these constitutional rights.
It's interesting, Senator Joe Biden himself was one of the least wealthy members of the Senate.
That's a commendable impression that he's going to give. You know, he's just a working fellow from Scranton, Pennsylvania, takes the train from Wilmington back and forth, and that is commendable. But on the other hand, look who he's standing up for, these giant corporations. And the shameless Drug War Act was just, you know, mandatory minimum sentences that have filled the jails, so we now have more prisoners in our jails, nonviolent drug offenders, than per capita than any country in the world, including China. I mean, we don't send nicotine addicts or alcoholics to jail. Why are we sending people who have drug addictions to jail?
Well, you are calling on some people to be jailed, but we're going to find out just who those people are in a minute. We're talking to Ralph Nader. He's an independent presidential candidate.